What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're last week's album. We're bringing you the only reviews with two different views. And this week we're talking about Bon Iver's 22 A Million. And we're asking the big question, does Bon Iver's experimental indie 22 A Million come up short? Cheers, Kevin and everyone at home.
Cheers, Derek and everyone at home.
Bon Iver, or Justin Vernon, just released the third full-length album under his moniker Bon Iver. Since the last album he released, he spent a lot of time reflecting on the Bon Iver sound that he's kind of created and where to take it next. And that kind of sense of self-exploration kind of found its way into this album. And along the way, he also helped create a new instrument called the Messina, which he helped create with studio engineer Chris Messina, which is described as an alternative vocoder, splitting a melody into several harmonies on the fly. And this one has a lot of really interesting track titles. There's a lot of numerology present in addition to non-alphabetical characters and emojis. Now let's talk about what it sounds like. Kevin, what'd you think?
I think this album sounds like Bon Iver, Kanye West, and Phil Collins conducting an orchestra of robots.
Wow, that sounds too binary for me to possibly comprehend right now. But on this album, I think Bon Iver sounds like 22 million bucks, £euro.
I think I get it.
I'm just like trying to reinterpret his track titles here. So let's talk about some highlights. Kevin, what'd you have?
First up, I think the trippy and experimental and thought-provoking sounds here do really well without being off-putting. I think a lot of times when you go into new soundscapes, there's that cringe-worthy factor that can happen, but here it really doesn't. He mixes the familiar and the new really interestingly and really, really well. It's at once sort of catchy and weird at the same time in all the right ways.
I couldn't agree more. I really enjoyed the Lush soundscapes here. I definitely thought there were more expansive sounds in earlier works. A track I'm going to call 33 God for the moment. That one really grows from a piano riff and splashes of synths before a lumbering bass synth and industrial drums take listeners into another dimension. I thought that was one instance where he kind of starts with a familiar sound and really kind of goes in a different direction. I thought at the same time he maintained the familiar intimacy that we've come to know with Bon Iver. 715 Creeks, or at least that's what I'm calling that track. It had a heavy use of that new instrument, the Messina, which really created interesting textured vocal harmonies. So it really kind of sounded like it was one vocal line, but they used that instrument, the Messina, to really create very intricate layers of sound. While it was very different, I thought it still really had a strong sense of intimacy in it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I like that you used alternate dimension to describe it because it really is like listening to nothing else. The other highlight I have is just the concept. I thought was a really interesting mix of math and spirituality and self-reflection, and I'm not sure I understand it all just yet. It's probably going to take a while, but I think from the lyrics to the sounds to the just arrangement and presentation of it all, it's put together really, really well as, an artistic statement from Bon Iver.
I thought there were snippets of that lyrically that really reflected that point. Heck, I thought there were a lot of just single word lyrics that emphasize that. For example, philosophize or rememorize.
I think he made up on one track a word, paramind.
Yeah, I remember that too. I like that one as well.
I appreciate an artist who's not afraid to literally create new words. Very interesting stuff.
So those were some strong highlights. Now let's talk about some lowlights. Kevin, did any make your list?
In fitting with the numbers and symbols in the track titles of this album, I would have to say that I have 0 ampersand complaints with this record.
I'm going to take that a step further. I did a little bit more of a numerical analysis here, I guess you could say. I thought the 10 tracks here clocking in at around 34 minutes. It made me wonder if maybe this was a little too short, made me wanting a little bit more. I think that just speaks to how much I like this album.
I thought I read somewhere that the timing of the album being around 33 minutes went back to the whole spirituality, Jesus' age, 33, maybe.
You're probably right.
I think it was intentional. I don't know Bon Iver, but if I were to guess by the number of sounds on this album, I think he's pretty particular.
So that brings us to the overall rating and answering the big question. Does Bon Iver's experimental indie 22 a million come up short? Kevin, what'd you think?
I will start with the big question. Does it come up short? And I would say no way. No how. I think this is definitely a concept album that's executed with the utmost artistic vision. I have a quote here from Bon Iver, or I guess Justin Vernon, when he's talking and not singing. He said, "A big thing for me on the album was how do we get something to sound accidental?" And I thought that was just a really interesting space to start from, and they definitely delivered on that. And I know we gave a lot of sounds like references at the start of this because that's the thing we always do, but this really does sound like nothing else out there right now. It's like music from a parallel universe. Derek, like you said earlier, an alternate dimension. To me, it sounds like past and future exist on the same plane in this weird world inside Justin Vernon's head. So if you couldn't tell, I loved this one, and I'm giving it a 5 out of 5.
I think we're going to agree on the most part here. To answer the big question, absolutely no way does it come up short. I always have high expectations for Bon Iver albums, like many others since, running across for Emma forever ago. I think you're totally right. It doesn't sound like anything else out there. It is very engaging. It just draws you in. But there are so many intricate nuances and complexities here. It will really keep you listening. I'm looking forward to listening to this some more. And if you can tell, I like this one as well. So I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5 as well. So with Kevin's 5, that's a combined 10 out of 10. So go check out Bon Iver's 22 a million. Let us know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe here on the YouTube or on the podcast. And as always, I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
Cheers, everyone.